IT security is more important now than ever before, with the global average cost of a data breach at $5.12 million US. Although for companies with planned and tested incident response, the cost is about $1.5 million less.
Back in 2006-2007, I started a new job and a new commute. I parked at the train station and read the notice at the ticket machine. If you've lived in the UK, you've read something like this 1,000 times. Pay and display. If you fail to display a valid ticket, you may be fined £50. A ticket was £10 a day, and I thought, if I can park here for 5 days before I get a fine, you know where I'm going with this, then I'll save money in the long run.
The cost of a data breach is about $5 million, so if, like me, you're thinking that if you spent $5 million on the total cost of ownership of cybersecurity in a year and could go a year without a breach, that you'd save money in the long run. Think again.
Well, that evening I got back to my car and I had a fine. I wasn't annoyed because it was the price I was prepared to pay for my experiment, and I'd learned something too. Either I was unlucky, or if I didn't buy a ticket tomorrow, I'd get another fine.
If you run the risk of not investing in cybersecurity and self-insure instead, I don't recommend it. Consider whether you'd like a regulatory fine of $25 million or 5% of annual revenue for breaching PIPEDA regulation, losing thousands of customers or losing hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue after you get breached and make the evening news. If you took down your cyber defenses today, hypothetically, you might save money, you might not get breached for a year, or you might get breached tomorrow. You might have been breached last month when your defenses were up and don't even know it yet, because the software you've deployed inside your perimeter is no longer effective, because cyber criminals are becoming increasingly sophisticated and better at evading detection. My name's Alex Russell. I'm a Client Success Manager with IBM. Hypotheses are my own. IT security requires strategic thinking, security by design, and a depth of practical experience that's difficult for many clients to achieve on their own. IBM is highly differentiated in the IT security space, with deep expertise, industry-leading capabilities, and an ecosystem of strategic partners, and embeds AI throughout its security software. IBM can secure your IT infrastructure from protecting against attack, theft and ransomware to data privacy, governance, risk and compliance. With cloud security, it's critical to understand your cloud service provider shared responsibility model. Where does provider protection end and your obligation begin? It isn't always black and white, and it's estimated that just 1% of cloud security failures will be the provider's fault. Some clients believe native cloud controls are enough, but they're never enough to protect against insiders or an outsider who's breached the perimeter, and they're relatively easy to misconfigure or configure incompletely. Also, their granularity and visibility is almost never sufficient to meet regulatory requirements. Having said that, cloud service providers are a contributing factor to determine the art of the possible due to their unique combination of infrastructure and software as a service offerings. IBM recommends aligning security initiatives with business priorities with corporate strategy, which is also a great way to get sponsors and senior leadership, and align security initiatives with risk of exposure. An IT security conversation incorporates the CISO and the CRO, who represents business units to determine appropriate access with respect to risk. So it's a cross-organization effort and requires a cross-organization policy. You can begin a conversation with IBM today, in confidence, starting from your situational awareness of your company's ability or inability to secure its IT assets. Some clients know their IT security capability is limited due to difficulty obtaining and retaining security professionals, so it's worth knowing that IBM secures more than 15,000 clients, stops threats including insider threats in near real time, and stops ransomware attacks happening somewhere in the world every 11 seconds, in their tracks with no human intervention, even zero-day threats without a signature.